What's going on, guys? This is my first video blog of 2017. One of my goals this year was to read 50 books for the entire year, so I'm going to try to do a book a week, and part of this blog is going to be me reviewing those books. Now, a lot of you know that I'm dyslexic, so when I say read, a lot of the times I mean listen to. So I'll be listening to a lot of books. I'll read a couple throughout the year, but most of the stuff I'm going to be doing on audible.com just because I drive a lot and it's a lot easier. So to kind of kick it off, I'm going to recap 2016, just let you guys know what's been going on in my world. We raised some money for an album. We're about 3 songs in on the album right now, maybe 6 or 7. We'll see how far funding goes. We already released one to iTunes, which is Sweet the Sound. You guys can check that out. We're supposed to release the single Far North sometime next week or within the next 2 weeks, depending on how fast we can kind of get production moving on that. That's basically 2016. That's all that really happened. That was my focus, to raise the money for that album. And then I took a road trip at the end of the year. I went to Louisiana, checked out some spots to play for music with one of my buddies. Drove back 6 days on the road. We went to San Antonio, we went to Austin, went to a little art town called Murpha, which is really cool. You should check that out. Grand Canyon, saw the Grand Canyon covered in snow and fog, so we didn't really see the Grand Canyon. We saw one little cliff with a lot of snow on it. You guys can go to my Instagram page and check out pictures from that. All in all, it's a good trip. We spent a lot of time listening to Grant Cardone, one of my favorite authors, and Daniel Pink, is an amazing social science guy. Malcolm Gladwell, just really digging into books and making goals for this 2017. So that's what kind of brought me to this video blogging deal. Recap of my week, just stuff that went on this last week, first week of 2017. I started playing music for a church in Sacramento, Liberty Tower. I'm still playing music for Vinewood and Lodi. So you guys can kind of find me at both places. So I'll be out there this Sunday at Liberty Tower in Sacramento. Again, we got the release of Far North kind of just breathing down my neck. And I recently ordered 5,000 books of my book, Josh and the Sock Army, to kind of go through and sell and do my readings at schools. And part of that is I have to do re-edits for the book. I have to go through the book and I have to resubmit. They're going to do something called offset printing, where they actually have like metal templates, and then those metal templates are going to be used for here on out to print Josh and the Sock Army. So I'm going through again, making some small changes, but the story itself will stay intact. One of the big things I wanted to do with this was the process of kind of like just what's going on in my head through the week. And the reason I want to do that is really not for you guys, it's for me. It's so I can look back at this 20, 30 years from now, and I'll have a week-by-week process of kind of the lessons that I learned. And when I am successful at doing some of the things that I am doing, it'll be a nice little documentation of what I've done. So part of that process is income. When I quit my job 2 years ago, I knew I was going to make less income because I was making substantial income at the job that I had. But I didn't know it was going to be as difficult as it was. And I didn't know, to quote Grant Cardone, I didn't know it was going to take me as long as it's taken me to kind of get back to all right, I'm actually doing it. So it's been 2 years now, and I'm kind of getting to the point where I don't work, I don't have a job, and I'm kind of paying all my bills. So that's been a long, stressful, long process. The other one is driving. I never imagined I'd be driving this much to kind of do the things that I love, and I'm driving quite often. I put in almost 120,000 miles on my car in 2 years, so I'm doing like 65,000 miles a year. So that's been a little daunting, but all in all, I'm still loving what I'm doing. Upcoming this next week for me, I have my mom's birthday, first and foremost. I got to finish all the edits for Josh and the Sock Army. I'm only 2 pages in on that. Each page takes about an hour. And contract writing, that's another part of the process. Because of my income level right now, I can't really afford to hire lawyers to write the contracts that I need for the deals that I'm actually making. Luckily, I went to school for that. But it's just really time consuming, and being dyslexic, I hate doing that stuff. Finish Far North, obviously, got to get that knocked out. And then I'm starting to set up tour dates. I'm actually really excited about this. It looks like June, July, and August of this year. I'm going to be working with a couple different musicians. We're going to try to do some local tours, maybe travel a little bit. And so we're setting those up. All in all, I'm jazzed about next week. But book of the week, Big Magic. So this week I listened to the audio version of Big Magic. I tried to get you guys a little picture of it, but my computer's not cooperating. That's a little bit better if I tilt it like that. And it's probably flipped around for you guys, so you're going to have to read it backwards. Big Magic was good. It's a book on creative living, beyond fear. That's the tagline that Elizabeth Gilbert gives it. For those of you who don't know, Elizabeth Gilbert is the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. So she's the same woman who did this one, and same author. And it's really about where creativity comes from and how creativity works. If you're an artist, if you're someone who does your own craft, I definitely recommend this book to you. It was really interesting. One of the stories she told was of a young girl who was working in the fields, and she was also a poet. And she'd be working on her farm, and she would get an idea for a poem, and she would literally sprint back to her house trying to get a pen and paper to find out, or no, to catch the poem before it escaped. And so a lot of the concept in this book is ideas aren't our own. Ideas kind of float from people to people, and they're looking for someone to kind of bring them to fruition. So in this young lady's story of her running back to catch a poem, she would tell a story of how she would get back to the pen and paper, and she would just have the last line, and she would just write down the last line, and then the poem would almost manifest itself backwards, just the way that she heard it, like she had grabbed it by the tail and like was kind of pulling it back before the idea escaped her. That was really interesting to me because growing up, my mom was a writer and a singer, and she used to tell me that I needed to sleep with a pen and paper next to my bed. And the reason I needed to do this because sometimes great ideas for songs or poems would come to you at night, and you'd have to reach over and write them down before they escaped you. So it was a really interesting concept. I liked the book. Pretty smooth read, short read, only about 6 chapters. And I'd say probably about 3 out of 5, or 3.5 stars out of 5. There were a couple parts in there where she lost me a little bit, but all in all, really interesting book. Definitely pulled some stuff from it that I'm going to use and apply to my own creative life. Next book up, I have Red Letter Revolution. That's from Tony Campolo and Shane Claiborne, and they're doing kind of like a call and response, basically just on the red letters of the Bible, not so much religiosity, but just the words that Jesus said. So throughout the year, I'm going to bounce through spiritual, financial, self-help. I probably won't do any fiction. I can't really get into fiction. I have to be gaining some knowledge from it. But I challenge you guys, man, if you guys want to do any of these books with me, hit them up, reply, ask questions. You guys got my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, and my Snapchat. Keep the conversation alive, and I'll try to respond to everybody with what chapters you guys are on and what you're thinking, and it will make these vlogs a little bit more fun. So that's all I got for you guys for this week. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next week.